Hey guys, Jonny from Propane Fitness. I just wanted to share today a quick tip, something that's pretty applicable to me at the minute, and something that I think it's an issue that people struggle with a lot when kind of managing this flexible lifestyle, that if it fits your macros type approach. Um, when you're traveling or staying with friends or working away, whatever it might be, and you don't have access to your usual sources of food, you don't have access to a kitchen, perhaps you don't have access to where you'd usually shop. It can sometimes be a little bit daunting to just jump into those situations and try and track the macros. I think for a lot of people, they've recently who follow this approach, they've recently switched over from an approach which was geared around certain types of foods. So it was something was clean or it was dirty, something was on the diet or off the diet, and then all of a sudden this shift of now I'm just tracking macros allows people to eat what they want, eat out with friends, eat at restaurants, and while that's very liberating, it's also quite daunting at the same time. So one thing that I found is that when you enter into these situations, it can be difficult to either estimate the macros or find the macros online. And something that people tend to do is use these situations as like excuses to either overeat or be more loose with the macronutrients. So I'm going to just go over what I tend to do, how I tend to deal with these situations, and then just some tips. So firstly, I think the thing to look at is if you look at any restaurant, you're going to find an abundance of carbs and fat and a lack of protein. Even if you're going to somewhere where it's a commercial chain and the macros are listed online, you're generally going to find that the protein's overstated and the fat and carbs are understated. So the first issue to think about here is when you're tracking the calories, when you're tracking the macros, a good approach to have is just to be prudent with the entries that you use. So let's say it was 50 protein, 100 carbs, 30 fat for an average meal at a restaurant chain. What I would then do is I would say, okay, well, I think probably the protein's understated, so I'll take 75%. Sorry, I think the protein's overstated, so I'll take 75% of that figure, and I'll use that as my protein entry. I think the carbs are probably understated, so I'll add, depending on the meal, I'll add between 10 and 25 grams of carbs to the entry. And I'll also do the same with fat, 10 or 15 grams. And you can make sensible adjustments to that. So if you're ordering a pizza, for example, or a pasta dish, and the pasta comes with a creamy sauce you weren't expecting, or the pizza's kind of drenched in oil or got loads of cheese on, you can make the sensible adjustments. And equally, if something comes with twice as much bread as you're expecting or whatever, you can add carbs. So that's the first kind of thing, is that be prudent with the entries that you use when you're eating out. Obviously that only really specifically applies to if you're away and you're actually eating at a restaurant. What about if you're just staying with a friend and they cook you dinner? So the first thing to think about, again, in a situation like that, is the thing that you're always going to be short on is protein. And that is the easiest thing to plug a hole in your diet. So take protein powder with you, bring protein bars. We love Quest bars. I think they're a great option. Fish oil is something else you probably miss out on. Multivitamin, fiber. So really, the things most people try and pack meals and things like that, and I think the only things you need are actually a good protein powder, a fish oil supplement if that's something you usually take, and also fiber, multivitamin. So that kind of covers some tips. What I tend to do, if I know, for example, so this weekend I'm staying with some friends, go to see Eric Helms, one of my coaches, in a seminar in London, and I know there's going to be situations where I'm not going to be able to hit my macros as accurate as I usually do. So this week I've dropped all of the days preceding the weekend down by 10, 15 carbs, and then just hit those macros as normal. So each day, slight adjustment, and then added that figure onto my Saturday or just the weekend. So that gives you a bit more calorie freedom. And I'll also go with, just rather than macros, I'll go with a protein goal and a calorie goal. So I'll hit the protein plus or minus 5, which is my usual tolerance. And then also hit the calories plus or minus 150 calories or plus or minus 100 calories. And not ideal, but it's better than treating these situations as kind of whoa, oh my god, I don't know what to do, and just derailing completely. So I guess take home points are: be prudent with the entries that you use if you're eating out in restaurants. Add carbs, add fat, and sometimes, depending on what it is, deduct protein. When you're staying in someone's house and maybe the actual macro entries aren't a problem, but you know that you're going to be relying on someone else's food, bring protein powder, bring a multivitamin, bring fiber, bring fish oil, bases covered. And then finally, if you know you're going to be away and you know that calorie restriction is going to be difficult, or perhaps you're cutting and your current calorie amount is quite low, consider adjusting the calories in your week to allow some more leeway on the day that you're away. All right, guys, so that's the tip, and I hope that helps you when you're staying away.